What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today, BTC USD. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, you guys. It is the 29th day of September. Here we are with about 9 hours and 30 minutes left in the day, sitting here at $113.7 thousand. We've moved up a little bit since our last video where I was calling for this to be a bull trap. I think we were literally right here at the beginning of the day. Of this day, literally the beginning of this day here, the end of yesterday, and I was calling for this to be a bull trap. I still am calling for this to be a bull trap until proven otherwise, right? I did say we could go, and I didn't think that we'd do this, but I did say we could even go above this high, and this is still a bull trap. Until we get above 114.5K, I'm really not convinced. Until we're closing a day above 114.5K, I'm not convinced. However, I will start to be convinced. We have 9 hours, 29 minutes left in the day. Let's see how this day closes. I will start to be convinced if we do close today above this 382. Closing 2 days in a row above this 382, it would signal, in my opinion, that we have found a low. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we found a low. There's more things to go as far as confirmation goes, but it's very possible that this is the low if we get today to close here. So in order to maintain the stance that this is some kind of a bull trap, we need to come all the way back down by the end of today. We need to close below the 382 by the end of today, or close below the 382 the next day without closing above the golden ratio, which statistically speaking, if we close here or we close above the 382, statistically speaking, we'd more likely get into the golden ratio or above it rather than go below this low here. The one thing that's got me feeling like the odds are on my side as far as going lower, as far as this being a bull trap is, and there might even be two things. Is, number one, we do have a gap here on the Bitcoin CME futures. Now, with that being said, there are other gaps. Oh, I don't know why it blinked there. There are gaps here. There's a gap here. There's gaps that are lower than this that have not been filled. Not every gap needs to be filled, right? There's actually a little gap right there. There's a gap right there. Not every single gap needs to be filled. So it's very possible, and we have been looking for a gap actually to leave the short traders behind, because a gap, most people know, is, statistically speaking, it is something that is a safe bet to kind of short until it gets filled. I would expect that we fill this gap. I would expect that we go lower, but just because I expect that doesn't mean it has to happen. That's my cat, Mufasa. If you see him, he's just giving me love, or more like asking me to give him love. Anyways, daily time frame here, CME gap right there, CME futures, we got it to the downside. That gap fills technically at about $109.9 thousand, and that with the disparity here, you see how the Bitcoin price is at 113.8, the CME futures is at 114.7. If CME futures was at 109.9, that would put the Bitcoin price probably closer to like 108K, 108.5K, something like that. Maybe 109K exactly. I don't know, something in that area. Anyways, looking at this on the 1 hour time frame. Oh, and there's one more thing I want to talk about too. The liquidation levels, right? We look at the liquidation levels over the past 30 days. Longs have come up a lot. Shorts have come down a lot. We're at about $12 billion in long liquidations, $12 billion in shorts. They're pretty 50-50 over the past month. Over the past week, longs have decimated the shorts, absolutely decimated. There's still a pile of shorts to move through here. But with that kind of a movement, going up to about 115K, I don't know, we might validate the low. That doesn't mean we can't pull back. If we move up a little bit more, we might pull back, we find a higher low, but I would think at that point we have found a low. What a weird way to find a low too, if this is how we did it. What an absolutely odd way to do it, but odd things happen, man. And we'll talk about what it means, in my opinion, for us to keep moving up between now and the 1st of October too. Let's see. Why isn't this refreshing? Over the past day, yeah, decimated, absolutely decimated. 3.4 billion in longs. That's a lot of longs, you guys. Typically, when we see $3.5 billion or around there in longs or shorts, you typically are expected to go the other direction. Not always. Not always. Do not take that to the bank and trade off of it, right? That's not always. You use that in conjecture with a bunch of different things, but here, pretty split 50-50, and we're not even that high off of our lows here, right? We're only about 4.5% off of our lows there, so I would think there is a solid chance that this comes back down. But if that were to be true, then by the end of today, we should see an immaculate reversal compared to what we've seen over the past 2 hours, right? This should be given back, and I don't know if it is. Looking at this 1 hour time frame, man, that's actually nice volume. We're on Binance, so that is good volume there. That's a good move up. Moving up like this, moving sideways, of course you're going to move up. I love it. It's actually a really good move. It looks like it wants to continue, got to be honest. You looked like you weren't ready to continue here and you wanted to come down, but then you just moved sideways. You held your ground. You let your indicators cool off, and you held the overbought zone for support. It's very bullish. Yes, there's some bearish divergence there, but I don't know. Is it? I mean, you still have a higher high here. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Stochastics are bullish as hell, and the MACD is bullish too. All bullish on the 1 hour. I'm not getting, other than the bearish divergence, which might or might not be there on the RSI, I'm not really getting any clear signals. That 4 hour looks fierce. Man, the 4 hour looks really fierce here, you guys. The MACD too is about to cross above the 0. Ooh, it might be time to call it quits with the bull trap theory here. We'll see. We'll see. I want to wait and see how the day closes before I say that officially, right? And by the time the day closes, we could be a whole $1,500 higher. But I'd feel much more confident calling for, let's say the end of the day closes up here. I'd feel much more confident saying that I was wrong. This is the low up here, rather than calling for it here, because we do have about 9.5 hours left in the day. If in that time we were to come back down, which if we've moved up this much just in the last couple of hours, we can definitely move down that much and more in the next 9.5 hours. I just like to wait and see how the day closes, because that can definitely be important. Let's not forget where we are technically is a prior area of resistance, right to a T. It is in this area of prior resistance here as well. Is there any other significance? Not really. Doesn't look like it. Just more relatively speaking, and that's fine. Yep. If we're looking at this overall from a high to a low, we're right below the golden ratio. It would make sense, in my opinion, if we reached up just a little bit more. Maybe we touch this 114.3K area or higher. Now again, getting to 114.5K or higher is that in itself does not prove that the low is in. It's closing the day here or higher that would provide that. But definitely encouraging look there. It's very possible that we come up here, we come back down to the 0.5 or the 382 for support, and then we keep working our way higher, right, forming that higher low. And if that's the case, we do something like this, there's no doubt in my mind that that's the low. But I'd like to wait and see. At this point in time, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with this bull trap theory, okay? Here's why. Because here, it would not make sense to turn around. So you're likely going to climb a little bit higher. But we also have 9 hours and 20 minutes now left in the day. So the clock is ticking. If the bears want to reverse this, if they do want the price to go lower, you're going to need to make some headway here pretty soon. Now, something weird could happen. Something weird could happen where you do close 2 days in a row above the 382 and you still get a lower low, which statistically isn't the probability, but just because that's true doesn't mean that it can't go lower. It definitely can go lower. I remain skeptical at the moment, but I'm willing to change my position. I just want to wait and see how the day closes. And if as soon as we flip and we say, all right, there's no more chance for this, or there's a lesser chance that we're going lower than this now, I'm calling for that to be the low. That's a higher low, and now we're moving up from here. If that's the case, and then we just dump from there and we see a lower low, fine. Let it be that as soon as I call for it to go up and for that to be the low, let that be the case. Even if that's the case, the low targets are still, if we are to go below this low, would be about 104.5 to 101.1K if we are to go below this low, okay? That's the target area. I'm not expecting that we've found our low yet, but I'm definitely open to it in case you can't tell. Let's wait and see how the day closes before we get too excited one way or another. And let me draw it like this so that we've got a clear picture. It's easier to draw on the daily time frame. 104.5K down to like 101K, right? This is our area. One way or another, regardless if we're moving down first or we move up more and we found our low, regardless of what happens, this move is insignificant compared to the move that's coming, right? We're going all the way up to $180,000, something in that area there. And the reasoning for that at least my reasoning for that, would be if we take this high here, we take this low here, our 2272 is right there. Typically with the 2272, you go just above it. Why do I think we're going to the 2272? There's several reasons. Pay attention. You'll come to believe that we're going to the 2272 as well. But here we are at the 1272. Sometimes the fibs work out in this serendipitous way where if you find resistance here, you'll find resistance at the next one, the 2272. If you find resistance at the golden ratio, you'll find resistance at this golden ratio, and so on. Does that make sense? Sometimes you go right up to the 2618, you find support at the 1618, and then you go up to the 3618. That's kind of how it happens. With the 2272, you typically don't stop right at it. You do go just above it. So 179K, let's say 180K or higher. Beyond that fib, which has a lot of significance at that area, the 2272 is a very well-respected area for Bitcoin. I'm actually curious, did it hit that or did it hit the 1886 on this low here? I forget. It just hit the golden ratio. Okay. Anyways, we've also shown a lot of respect this cycle to the 1886 area and the 2618, but 2272 is something that it definitely respects on these longer term scales. High to low, bull market high, I should say last cycle's high, to the bear market low. Right there, the golden ratio, the 1618 is right there, and Bitcoin likes to wick above its golden ratio too. So from here, if I delete this fib, you can see where we drew it's right above the 2272 there. Right here, we're below the 1414. When we break out, when we move higher, we're probably not just going to stop at 130K. We're probably going to go higher. So where's the next fib area that makes sense? And this is a very significant fib, being from last cycle's high to the bear market low. This is a very significant fib, and we've shown respect on it, direct respect on it, really throughout this whole cycle. It's been phenomenal, right? The 236 held us up as support. The 382 held us up as support. The golden ratio held us up as support here. The 786 progressively getting stronger and stronger. This was a bit odd, but whenever you do this, it's typically very strong behavior. Which is even more odd because this consolidation, I can't tell you how bullish this is. Typically when you see this, you just run right up to the golden ratio. That's why we were so bullish back in June and July. This little like lagging phase, I don't know how to explain how this happened because this is not common with this kind of consolidation. We should have been up at the golden ratio already, at least in my opinion. But all I'm trying to say there is with that energy, plus the fact that you've stopped around the 1414, where's the next area that you're going to go to? Probably at 173K or higher, and typically you do wick a little bit above the golden ratio, the 1618, even the regular one, typically you wick through it a little bit with Bitcoin. Not every coin, not every stock, not every chart's different. Bitcoin likes to wick through its golden ratio. Some coins, some stocks, they like to stop right at the golden ratio and then they revert from there, so that happens. But I would say about 180K sounds right. That's where we're going. So to bring it all back, and here we are moving up a little bit above 114K now. Even if I'm wrong about this, we're not going to be wrong about this. This is still likely going to happen by the end of October. And some exciting things that I want to end the video with just on that thought is we have been talking about the Senate hearing for the taxation of digital assets. And I'm actually curious now, has Bitcoin hit that golden ratio mark? I did say that what we're doing going into this hearing might prove to be bullish or bearish for crypto. What do I mean by that? So if we're pumping, if we're moving up going into the first day of October, which is the Committee on Finance of the United States Senate, they're having a hearing talking about the taxation of digital assets. If we're moving up into the 1st of October, we might sell the news. You might buy the hype, sell the news. It might be a sell the news event. But if we're moving up into it, I would assume that means that there's going to be some positive things coming out for this taxation on digital assets. We might be getting the promise that Donald Trump gave us last year, talking about no capital gains tax, no taxes on American-made cryptos, and maybe it'll even be more bullish than that. We'll see. Maybe it'll also include the top 5 or the strategic crypto reserve cryptos as well, right? Because Solana is included in that, and I'm pretty sure Solana's not an American-made crypto, is it? Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is. Every other crypto is American-made, I think. Bitcoin, we don't know, right? But we know. But we don't know. There's a lot of theories that it is, but 114.2K. We're almost there. We're right at that golden ratio zone. This could be a serious rejection point. So by the time you guys watch this, one of two things is going to happen, right? Either one, we're still up in this area. We might even be moving higher, and in which case I'm probably wrong. I'm going to have a lot of egg on my face. Or two, We're right here at this serious rejection point at the golden ratio, right at prior support right here as well, right with this wicking low right there, 114.3K. The golden ratio is at 114.2K, right at this area, and we reject down immediately. One of two things is going to happen. So by the time you watch this video, we'll see how it goes. But either way, whether we do go lower to the target areas that we've previously discussed, or we just move up from here, this is our low. We come down, we find a higher low, because after the first we sell the news, whatever, we find a higher low, and then we move up. Whatever the case may be, whatever path we're on, all paths lead to 180K, if not by the end of October. By the end of October, then sometime in November, I would assume. And then going into the end of the year, we should be well above $200,000. I don't know how far above $200,000, but I would think we're at least above $200,000 by the end of the year. I don't really have anything else that I want to say, so I'll just end it there. If you guys liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one, okay? Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.